Jesse, I would like to now introduce you to be able to give your testimony for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman and members of Congress, for holding this really incredibly important forum. I'm Jesse Fransbaugh with the National Immigrant Justice Center. So NIJC serves people throughout the country, but has a focus on the Midwest region and serves people facing rampant rights violations that are being carried out by ICE and people facing inhumane conditions in immigration detention. And today I'd like to discuss two issues. One, the rampant abuses that people are facing by ICE, and then also the egregious misuse of funds and overspending beyond congressionally approved levels by ICE. So first on abuses, in 2018, NIJC sued with other civil rights groups over violations of the INA and Fourth Amendment protections after raids occurred in Chicago. And during these raids, ICE officers, they failed to comply with the very limited warrantless arrest authority before making many of the arrests. And then in 2022, the government agreed to a settlement agreement in a class action lawsuit called Castaño-Nava versus DHS, and ICE issued a nationwide policy setting forth requirements and limits for making warrantless arrests and vehicle stops. But, of course, this Trump administration quickly violated the Castaño-Nava settlement within a week of its new term in January of this year. And in March of this year, NIJC joined other rights groups to file a motion to enforce documenting 22 examples of violations of the terms of that settlement, stemming from ICE and other federal agents targeting the Chicago area just days after the inauguration. And we now know that ICE has instructed agents to arrest as many people as possible when carrying out enforcement actions. And in June, according to internal emails that were reviewed by The Guardian, senior immigration officials instructed rank-and-file officers to, quote, turn the creative knob up to 11 when it comes to enforcement, including by interviewing and potentially arresting people they called collaterals. And those emails, they followed Secretary Noem and Stephen Miller pressing immigration officials to ratchet up immigration-related arrests to at least 3,000 people a day. And so this practice, we know, has consistently resulted in profiling along racial and ethnic lines, recently confirmed by Tom Homan's own remarks. And the impact of this lawless conduct is really staggering. In one story, NIJC client named Abel Orozco is one of the 22 people challenging the administration for violating the Castaño-Nava settlement when they were arrested. Abel, he has been in the U.S. for nearly 30 years. He was abducted by half a dozen armed agents, ICE agents, in a case of mistaken identity. Once ICE realized Abel was not their target, they refused to let him go, even as he went into an asthma attack. 6 months later, he's still trapped in detention, now in a county jail in Kentucky. Abel, he owns his own business, which is now in jeopardy. His wife is battling cancer while he fights for just a full day in court and his due process rights. There are, of course, thousands of people like Abel facing the harsh crackdown from this administration on people who have been here for decades. So lastly, just on overspending and transferring emergency funds, we've seen that in prioritizing mass detention and these sweeping raids, the administration has siphoned funds from emergency services, putting communities across the country at risk of devastating disasters. Just on July 10th, Senator Murphy released a letter opposing a request to move more than $430 million from FEMA, USCIS, and other programs within DHS to cover costs relating to the overspending and self-inflicted shortfalls, including $212 million to ICE. So in the wake of the tragic floods in Texas, it's really unconscionable that Congress would approve more money for ICE from FEMA accounts. The latest reprogramming request from ICE comes on the heels of the historic influx of cash from the reconciliation bill, making the agency the biggest law enforcement agency in the country with a larger budget than the FBI, DEA, ATF, and U.S. Marshals combined. So in the end, the passage of that bill gave billions in slush funds while also caving to executive overreach and abuse of authority. Now with that money approved, Congress really must do everything in its power to end ICE impunity. This means blocking any additional funds through the appropriations process and conducting vigorous oversight, including visits and advocating on behalf of people in detention, and it's really vital for Congress to push for an end to ICE overspending and the impunity and work to protect constitutional protections. Thank you.